So now you have division by names. So that's why you have all these different names that divide the people. You have all these denominations.
That's right.
But our unity is what's gonna, we don't have to fire a single shot. All we have to do is unite.
Yes, sir.
But in order to unite, we're gonna have to cast out white supremacy in our own mind. We gotta get rid of that. That's the only way we're gonna be able to unite with our brother.
Yes, sir.
Is we have to see him as our brother and not our enemy, because we are not enemies. We are in fact brothers and sisters, and we need to join on with each other and join our own, which the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said ourselves was righteous Muslims.
That's right.
Which is the religion of all of the prophets. They were upright men, righteous men. And so we just need to get back to that family. Once again, I want to thank you for allowing me this brief moment to address you with my few words. And no further ado, I want to present to you our student captain, our beloved brother, Brother Herman Muhammad.
All right, brother. Let's keep it going for Brother James. Give Brother James a voice. Praise be to Allah. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who came to us in the divine person and master of Prophet Muhammad. I bear witness that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad is in fact his divine messenger, Messiah, and we have now come to know him as the exalted Christ. I further bear witness that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is a divine reminder, comforter, and truly a divine mercy from Allah in our midst. And in their three holy and righteous names, I greet my beautiful sisters and brothers in the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language, Assalamu alaikum. And if you are not familiar with those words, they simply mean peace be unto you. As Muslim followers of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, whenever we greet one another, we try to do it in a civilized way, because he's giving us a new way of civilization. We don't say what's up, what's happening, what's cracking, what's popping, hello. You know, hell is love.
That's right.
What we want to say is we want to wish each other peace, because we live in a world that doesn't have any peace. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
He's introducing us to a new way of civilization. It's new to us in that we've been lost from ourselves. Thank you, brother. But it's old in the sense that as a people, we are the ancient of days. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
We are the original people of the earth.
Yes, sir.
And before we were brought here by our 400-year-old tormentors, or actually 6,000-year-old tormentors, we greeted each other in a civilized way. We would say Assalamu alaikum. We spoke our original language. So again, that's the reason why we use those greetings, just trying to bring us back to ourselves and familiarize us with who we really are. Now, my subject today, as Brother James alluded to, is the question of separation.
Come on, come on.
The question of separation. Now, this is a heavy-duty question, because this is something that, not that we have a choice to believe in as followers of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, but as their followers, we have to believe in separation.
Come on, come on.
That's right.
It's incumbent upon the believers who belong to the nation of Islam to believe that we should be separated from our enemies.
Come on, come on.
That's a principal belief. That's a foundational belief, believe it or not.
Yes, sir.
Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad also teaches us that the closest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So with that said, I'm going to go straight to it and say that separation is the best and only solution to the problem between blacks and whites in this country.
Come on, come on, come on. Come on.
Believe that. Yes, sir.
I mean, I can say thank you for listening to me. I like to bless you. But that's it. But I just want to get to where we're trying to go, and then I want to lay the base as to why we say that. And is it actually feasible for us to separate? Because that's the question.
Yes, sir.
When we talk about separation, we have to have some. We have to clear up some myths and some misconceptions as to what separation really is. When we're talking about separation, we're not talking about segregation.
That's right.
We're not talking about segregation. Do you all know what segregation is?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Those of us who were around in the 50s and 60s, that does not include myself. We might know very well what segregation is. Segregation is the separation between an inferior and a superior, where the superior in the situation has all the cards. He determines everything that's going on. That's what happened to us as a people when we were brought here and made into slaves and so-called, after that, emancipated, proclamated in 1865 by President Lincoln. Then we went into a system called Jim Crow, which was a system of segregation. Segregation was separate but not equal. Segregation means you had your own schools, you had your own different entities, but they were unequal because you didn't have the resources to make them equal to those of your so-called superior. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
That means that when we were here in the after slavery, we were so-called freed or so-called emancipated, proclamated, like I said, but we didn't have no place to go. We had schools, but we had schools where we didn't have any books.
That's right.
Now, what kind of sense does that make? We had schools, we could eat at restaurants, but everything that we had, it was like second-class citizen status. That's segregation. We don't want that. Not at all. What we're talking about is separation. Separation is the separation between two different people where we have our own, they have their own. Now, why is that important? That's important because as long as we've been in this country, and the earliest reports of slaves being brought to this country was in 1555. Did you all know that?
Yes, sir.
I know a lot of times we believe or we're taught in school that the earliest slaves were brought here in 1619 and belonged to the Jamestown colony. But the truth of the matter is, and you can go to the Congressional Library in Washington, D.C., the truth of the matter is that the first slaves, or the first records of slaves that were brought here to this country were brought here in the year 1555 by a slave trader by the name of Sir John Hawkins on a ship that was called Jesus of Lubeck. That's very important. That's the record of the first slaves that were brought here. But my point in regards to this whole piece on separation is that we have not been equals ever since we were brought here.
That's right.
We have not been treated fairly, sisters and brothers, ever since we were brought here. Would you all agree with that?
Come on, come on.
Or does everybody think that everything is all hunky-dory? Is everything all good between the races, black and white, in the United States of America?
Come on, come on, come
Everybody
on.
all right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah. These are questions that we must ask. So, like I was saying before, the point of separation in the Nation of Islam and the Muslim followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is a foundational point.
Yes, sir.
It is something that we absolutely must believe in order to be their followers. Now, why do I say that? On the back page, and I'm going to advertise for a hot minute, of this newspaper. This is called the Final Call newspaper. For those of you who do not know, if you're not familiar with this particular publication, this is the Final Call newspaper. This is a publication that is published by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Come on, come on.
This is the most widely circulated, black-owned and operated publication in the world.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right? This publication has been in existence before it was the Final Call newspaper. It was the Muhammad Speaks
Come on, T,
newspaper
T,
since
T,
the
T.
1960s.
Amen.
Sister, no, praise be to Allah. And on this, in every paper that we publish, on the back page, there's a page that is entitled The Muslim Program.
Yes, sir.
And on that page, it is comprised of what the Muslims want and what the Muslims believe. And so, on point number 4 of what the Muslims want, and I'm gonna read this, and just listen to this carefully and just think about it. It reads, we want our people in America whose parents or grandparents were descendants from slaves to be allowed to establish a separate state or territory of their own, either on this continent or elsewhere. We believe that our former slave masters are obligated to provide such land and that the area must be fertile and minerally rich.
Amen.
We believe that our former slave masters are obligated to maintain and supply our needs in this separate territory for the next 20 to 25 years until we are able to produce and supply our own needs. Since we cannot get along with them in peace and equality after giving them 400 years of our sweat and blood and receiving in return some of the worst treatment human beings have ever experienced, we believe our contributions to this land and the suffering forced upon us by white America justifies our demand for complete separation in a state or territory of our own. That's what the Muslims want, right?
Yes.
Point number 4. And that's very important because 4 is a number in mathematics that represents foundation. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Y'all follow me now, because if you have a 3-legged chair, what's gonna happen? It's gonna fall. So 4 is a very foundational principle. Now, points 7 through 9 are what the Muslims believe. I want to read this because it ties right in. We believe this is the time in history for the separation of the so-called Negroes and the so-called white Americans. We believe the black man should be freed in name as well as in fact. By this we mean that we should be freed from the names imposed upon him by his former slave masters. Names which identify him as being the slave master's slave. We believe that if we are free indeed, we should go into our own people's names, the black peoples of the earth. That's number 7.
Yes, sir.
Number 9, reads, "We believe that the offer of integration is hypocritical and is made by those who are trying to deceive the black peoples into believing that their 400-year-old open enemies of freedom, justice, and equality are all of a sudden their friends. Furthermore, we believe that such deception is intended to prevent black people from realizing that the time in history has arrived for the separation from the whites of this nation.
Come on, come
If the
on.
white people are truthful about their professed friendship toward the so-called Negro, they can prove it by dividing up America with their slaves. We do not believe that America will ever be able to furnish enough jobs for her own millions of unemployed, in addition to the jobs for the, at this time, 20 million, but it's now 40 to 50 million black people as well."
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I read that to say, we believe in separation, without a doubt. We believe that it makes sense. I mean, and all you gotta do, brothers and sisters, is look around. All you gotta do is look at the actual facts that during the past 3 years, over 3,000 of our people have died at the hands of law enforcement
Yes, sir.
and
Say that.
correctional
Go
officers.
ahead.
T.
That's right.
Right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All you have to do, just think about this, is think about the fact that as a people, even though we were enslaved, even though we went through 100+ years of Jim Crow after our enslavement,
Come on,
because
come
we
on.
didn't get the right to vote until the 1964 Civil Rights Bill, is that right? So, even though we've endured all of that, black people have found a way to function in this system, in this society. We have found a way to occupy every elected office.
Come on, come on.
Think that over. So-called free slaves, emancipated Negroes. We've been on your city council, is that right?
Yes, sir.
We've been in the mayor's office. We got a black mayor right now.
Come on,
In Denver,
T.
Colorado.
Yes, sir.
You wouldn't know it though, as a black person,
Oh, come on, come on.
right?
Yes,
That's
sir.
right.
We've been in the House of Representatives. We've been in the Senate. We've been in the governor's mansions of America. Political office. But even having that beautiful brother and his beautiful family in that White House and seeing their example of style and sophistication and grace and education, they treated him like he was a nigga.
That's right.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Do y'all remember?
Yes, sir.
I mean, straight up. I mean, can you imagine? He sits in the highest office in the land. Some say in the world.
That's right.
And I remember early on in his presidency that there was an incident that happened in the news where there's a Harvard professor named Henry Louis Gates.
Okay.
And Henry Louis Gates lives in a very upper echelon bourgeoisie neighborhood. And like most of us, the brother one day, man, just misplaced his keys.
Come on, come on.
And so he's trying to get into his house, right? But even though he lives in the neighborhood and he's lived in the neighborhood for years, apparently his white neighbors don't know who the hell he is.
Come on, come on.
So he misplaces his keys and he's trying to get in the house, right? And the neighbors call the police. So the police come. Now this brother is a Harvard law professor. Tenured. Very, very high up in the society.
Up to the.
But they call the police on him. And the police come and he tries to explain, but they arrested the brother. Took him to jail. You know what I'm saying? Wait until they could clearly make sure that it was his house and that he wasn't trying to break in. And he's a 50-something, 60-something-year-old man.
Come
you know
on,
what I mean? Talks all proper.
G. Willikers.
But they took him to jail. So when Obama, you know, got wind of it, because it was a big story in the news, Brother Obama said, and rightly so, he said, man, that was stupid.
That's right.
On the part of those police officers. That was stupid to arrest that man for trying to break into his own house. Man, white America went off. Went off. He shouldn't be meddling in state affairs and blah, blah, blah. Hey, we could easily call this subject hashtag still a nigga. Because that's exactly how they treated it. They treated Henry Louis Gates with his bourgeois educated self like he was a nigga.
That's right.
And when President Obama spoke up, even though he's the highest authority in the world, according to this world, they treated him like he was a nigga.
Yes, sir.
So much so that he had to apologize. He had to apologize. Then he had to, listen to this, how absurd this is. He's the president. He had to apologize. Then he had to call the police officer who he talked about and invite him to the White House to have a beer.
Come on, Brother Herman.
Yeah, right.
You're making that up.
You couldn't make this stuff up, man. I mean, for real. And man, he was the most disrespected president ever.
That's right.
He would be making, y'all remember, maybe y'all forgot. I'm telling you, man, Donald Trump done made everybody forget everything.
They still play.
This devil, he's so cold and he's so ridiculous. Man, he done wrote everybody out of history.
Come on.
But President Obama will be sitting up giving his, I remember he was giving a State of the Union address. You know, that's an annual thing. That's one of those things where both houses of Congress are supposed to get together and unify, and you unite behind your president and what's going on for the betterment of the nation. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
He would be sitting up there teaching and speaking, and the brother could get out. You can't say that about Obama.
Right.
He could give a speech.
Yes, sir.
And the white boys are, liar!
What? Right.
The president?
Right.
That's the president out there and you screaming out. This is the type of disrespect we have endured.
Yes, sir.
And it goes on and on and on, whether it be in politics, whether it be in entertainment, right?
Yes, sir.
Y'all remember OJ? Right?
Yes, sir.
OJ, Jay-Z got a new CD off the chain, man. He said, man, I'm not black, I'm OJ.
Yeah.
Okay. You still a nigga.
That's right. Yeah.
And let me just talk about OJ. I mean, this is on the subject, but it's off the subject. But I just gotta share about OJ because, you know, when that happened, you know, of course, OJ Simpson was accused in 1994 of the murder of his wife and her companion, Ron Goldman, right? And during that time, we was riding with OJ. You know what I mean? At that time, I was in the Nation of Islam. I don't know about you all, but I was of the mindset that OJ couldn't have did that. You know what I mean? He couldn't kill both them people like that, and he didn't get a scratch on him, a little cut on his finger, but I was riding with OJ.
Right.
That's right.
And we really were. I mean, all over the country, it polarized the country where
Yes, sir.
black people was celebrating when the brother got off, and white people was lamenting. Again, we talking about separation.
Yes, sir.
They were lamenting because that brother got off, and they really felt as though he had killed those people. Now, in hindsight, I saw a documentary, the O.J. Simpson story, Made in America. Did you all see that? Have you all seen that documentary?
Yes,
All right, so
sir.
if you haven't seen that documentary, see it. It's very good. It's a critically acclaimed documentary about that whole case. And in hindsight, after seeing that nigga did that.
Are you gonna put the quotation marks on
He
that?
did that. And I say that nigga did that. And I'm not trying to be vulgar, but remember what I said what the documentary was called? Made in America.
Yeah, that's right.
See, OJ actually said that in that documentary. I'm not black, I'm OJ. Made in America. He really thought that he wasn't black. But he was a nigga. Because, man, I can go into details of that documentary, but man, yeah. Yeah, he did that.
Come on.
He did that. But only one made in America could commit a crime like that. Think that over. Only one made in America who had that mindset, I'm not black, I'm OJ. Because he really bought into the fact that no matter what he did, white people would accept him.
That's right.
He believed that with all of his heart. Now, he got a rude awakening because they found a way to put him in jail.
That's right.
And they said it when they put him in jail. They're like, hey, they normally don't carry a sentence like this. But for you,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
here you go. And they handed it to him. Made in America. But this speaks to the case for separation.
Yes.
Look, when two people cannot get along,
What should be done?
what should be done?
Separate.
When you have irreconcilable differences. I mean, we all been in relationships, man, to where, have you ever been in a relationship where there's one person who always gets what they want?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Look at my wife looking at me, don't say that.
me.
Sometimes it's
Don't
me.
say that.
Yes, sir.
Where one person always gets what they want.
Yes, sir.
And even, they be so cold and so abusive with it, that even when you do finally get what you want, it's really not what you want, it's what they wanted, but you settling for it.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever been in a relationship like that?
Yes, sir.
Because that type of relationship, you cannot heal.
Yes, sir.
If that person is that selfish, is that narcissistic, is that conceited, you can't win with that person. If it's always going to be the way that they want it, you can't win.
That's right. That's right.
Never know. You ain't right.
So eventually, instead of going through it and going through it and going through it,
You got to go.
you got to separate
See?
if you want to do what's right for you.
That's right. That's right.
Say that again.
I mean, if you think over what we have gone through in this country,
Yes, sir.
when have we ever gotten what we want?
Not ever.
That's a heavy question.
Right.
I mean, think that over. Think about the mothers of Michael Brown
Yes, sir.
Think about it.
and Oscar Grant
Uh-huh.
Think about it.
and Trayvon Martin,
Yes, sir.
All right.
Sandra Bland,
Yes, sir.
Freddie Gray,
And on and on and on.
and it goes on. Marvin Booker here in Denver.
Yes, sir.
It goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And then they have these trials. Hell, go back a little bit further. Think about Rodney King,
Yes, sir.
Emmett Till.
Emmett Till,
Yeah. Yes, sir.
and how you never get justice.
Never.
You never get what you want. And then you protest, you sit in, you stand in, you lay in, you do whatever the hell.
Sometimes you
Whatever you do, yeah, whatever. And then they'll say, okay, here's what we do, black people. We'll give our officers some sensitivity training. And then they find your leader or your representative or whoever the protest is, and they say, you know, on top of that, we'll give you a little bit of money to fund your organization.
Go ahead.
Come on, come on,
You're
come
like,
on.
yes, justice.
Right.
What?
Right.
But at the same time, your babies are still in the grave.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
At the same time, in 2017, even though slavery don't exist no more, so they say, Jim Crow don't exist anymore, so they say.
Right.
If we leave here today and we get pulled over by the police, you nervous.
That's right. Because you might get shot today.
You might get shot to death. That's right, Brother Jamie. You might not survive that.
Go ahead.
But yet, you're paying these people.
Yes, sir.
Hey, man. Come on, come on.
See, you don't get no justice. You don't get anything. So, you're in a relationship that's abusive. You're in a relationship to where you never get what you want, but he always get what he wants.
Come on, come on. Teach.
You're in a relationship that you need to get out of.
All right.
Because it is unhealthy.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And as a people, we have been stuck in a relationship that is unhealthy.
That's right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And we have been trying to get along. We have done everything that we can do.
That's right.
We have given up our own identities. We have danced when there wasn't no music playing.
Right.
We have scratched when, man, we wasn't even itching.
Right. That's right.
We have talked in a manner that doesn't even fit with the way that we talk, man, because our lips are thick. Is that right?
Yes,
We don't
sir.
talk like white people.
No, we do not.
But when we get around them, we find a way to.
All right, watch yourself.
We find a way. We are in an unhealthy relationship. Now, it's interesting because as I was coming up on this subject and studying for this subject, our student national assistant to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Brother Ishmael, he did a lecture. And in it, he made a point that was very critical. And he was stating that we are in a situation where we're trying to separate from a people that is totally different from us.
Yes, sir.
That's unprecedented.
Yes, sir.
Because
Go ahead.
even if
Go
you,
ahead.
I mean, I want you to really think this over. Because even if you study the history of this country in 1776, when these people declared their independence,
Right.
they were declaring their independence from their own people.
Yes,
Right. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead, sir.
Right.
Think that over. I mean, during that time, Great Britain, who was the government, George Washington was an Englishman. Did you all know that?
Yes, sir.
They all came from English.
See?
George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Hancock, all them cats, John Adams, all them founding fathers were Englishmen. And they were being, in their minds, so mistreated by their own people
Right.
that they wanted to separate from them.
Yes, sir.
Now, this is their own people, this is their own brothers.
Yes, sir.
But they were sane enough to say, you know what? This ain't working.
Right.
We gotta get away from these people. Our own brothers.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Think that over.
Yes, sir.
Think that over. And so the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that we need to separate from them in name as well.
That's
Name
right.
In
and
name and
That's
deed.
right. That's right.
Because as long as you wear their name, it denotes ownership.
That's
Yes,
right.
it does.
Yes, sir.
Did you all know that?
Yes, sir.
That's why when a woman gets married, it is her father who gives her away.
That's
Uh-oh.
right.
Teach.
See, when they brought us here, they took our names and gave us theirs because now we belong to them.
Right.
Yes, sir.
But as we come into consciousness, man, we gotta give this man his damn name back.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Straight up. Devil's names do not apply. We gotta give him his name back in order to truly free ourselves.
All right.
So we've got to declare our independence. Now I want to read something, and this is just the beginning of the Declaration of Independence of this country. And I want you to read something and just think about the founding fathers at this time and their grievances, and then what we've outlined thus far about our grievances. And of course, this was written in July 4th, 1776. And these words are very, they're very inspiring, even considering who they came from.
Yes, sir.
The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and the natures God entitled them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident,
Yes, sir.
that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
All right.
Yes, sir.
That to
Yes, sir.
secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms of which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies. and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to the candid world. And so from that point, they go on to lay down all of the abuses of the King of England and what they have done to the 13 colonies at that time of the United States of America. But my point is, they declared their independence based upon mistreatment.
Yes, sir.
They declared their independence based upon the fact that they had taxation, but they didn't have representation.
That's right.
Now, all of that is important because in part of that, it said we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Right?
Yes, sir.
Self-evident, like that's obvious.
Yes, sir.
But at the time, they had slaves. Now I want you to think that over. They had slaves. And later, as they wrote their constitution, they still had slaves.
Yes, sir.
And when they did finally put their slaves in the Constitution, it was only for the benefit of whites, so that the South could benefit from population in terms of voting. That's another story for another time. But at that time, we were relegated to being 3/5 of a human being. Did you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
How much is that?
Right. So you were 60% of a human being. 60%. You was kind of a man. You were more like a cattle or horses or a pig. But you wasn't a full human being. And understand, when you talk about constitutions, Constitution, I want you to look at that word. And you know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad teach us that we should really study the words that people use, especially our enemies, because there's wisdom in the words.
Yes,
when
there is.
someone says this is a constitution, it is what that particular thing is made up of.
Yes, sir.
Did you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
The Constitution is the constitution or the structure of a thing. It's what makes that thing what it is.
That's right.
See, the constitution of this podium is wood.
All right.
Yes, sir. Teach.
Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So when someone says that the Constitution is the bedrock of America, it's what makes America what it is.
Uh-oh.
Think that over. The Constitution is what drives people from all over the earth to come here so that they can enjoy the so-called freedoms that they don't get in their country. They can enjoy those freedoms right here in America. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
But in the Constitution, in the makeup of America, in what it is constructed of, you were relegated to being 60% of a human being.
Wow.
Speak.
Think that over.
Speak.
Think that over.
Yes, sir.
Because that is important. That means that, listen, in this country, you will never be equal. No, you won't.
Right.
Think that over.
Never.
You won't. It's not in the Constitution. You're already relegated to a certain point. They amended the Constitution, and amendments are temporary. But there's a book, this book right here, and if you ever get a chance to read this book, The New Jim Crow.
Yes, sir.
But in this book, and I'm getting through it, but it's very, very powerful. But in this book, the sister, whose name is Michelle Alexander, she outlines how not only in the Constitution are you always going to be relegated, but the Supreme Court has constantly relegated you to a certain status to where you could never be a citizen.
Right.
That's right.
The Supreme Court has made it, and this is important, and I'm not lying. If you think that I'm lying or you think that what I'm saying is unbelievable, please research it. I'm begging you to.
Yes, sir.
You're gonna find that we stand on truth up in here.
That's right.
Right.
That's all, baby rock. Go ahead.
But it is, listen to, remember we just talked about if we go out here and get pulled over by the police. Did you know that it's legal for the police to racially profile you?
Wow. Say that again, so I think that.
It's legal for them to racially profile you.
Explain that.
I know that's right. When did that come about?
Okay, I'm gonna say that. Look, the Supreme Court has ruled, and I can give you the case too, she outlines it in this book,
Yes, sir.
that a policeman can racially profile you, but he has to add something in addition to your race. In other words, it's illegal. I'm gonna be very clear. It's illegal for them to just say, I arrested Brother James because he's black. Right? Which a police officer would never admit to anyway.
That's right.
Did you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Like, it's illegal for them to say, I arrested Brother James because he's black. But it's legal for them to say, I arrested him because he's black.
Yeah, go ahead.
His pants are sagging, and he's in the neighborhood that drug infested.
Right.
His tint's too dark and it's scarred.
Exactly.
Come on.
His tail lights out.
Tail light out.
Like,
He's driving through a state where they're known to transport marijuana.
Right. Uh-oh.
So it's legal for me to pull him over.
Yes, sir.
That's the Supreme Court upholding decisions.
They call it probable cause.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Listen, in this book, she outlines during the 70s, right? Especially when old Tricky Dick,
Amen.
Richard Nixon was the president.
Bad time.
If you watch a documentary called 13, Richard Nixon was
Yes,
on
sir.
tape.
Yes, sir.
It was on tape.
Yes, sir.
I couldn't make this up again. And he said, we can't just outright criminalize being black. But we can criminalize what they do.
That's right.
yeah, that's right. Go ahead.
That's what he said.
During the 1970s, during that time, there was only, I want to say 300,000 people in the state and federal prisons of America.
300,000.
300,000. Did y'all hear me?
Yes,
300,000. It was so low, in fact, in comparison to the population, that the scholars were saying that probably within the next 10 to 20 years, there would not even be a need for prisons.
What?
That's
Did y'all hear me?
That's what they said.
Yes, sir.
That's what the scholars were saying. But what happened was when Tricky Dick, Richard Nixon, criminalized what black people do. And they started having code words like being tough on crime.
Yes, sir. Also some politics.
They started criminalizing and arresting black people for minor drug offenses.
Amen.
Now I'm gonna say this, and this is so crucial because these are all statistics. This is mathematics. This is I couldn't make this up. 300,072 today. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
Get him.
Close to 3 million. Half of which are black.
Somebody got an agenda.
Now you only comprised of 14% of the population. but you in between 50 and 60% of the prison population.
Amen.
After Richard Nixon, of course, you had Gerald Ford, you had Jimmy Carter, and they weren't really that tough on crime. But then came one named Ronald Wilson Reagan.
Ronald Wilson.
Ronnie Reagan, 666.
Yes, sir.
Count the number of the beast.
Yes, sir.
Ronald Wilson Reagan. And Ronald Wilson Reagan was called the Great Communicator.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever asked, because I listened to Ronald Reagan. I was a kid when he was president, but I've listened to Ronald Reagan's speeches, and I didn't think they were all that great. I think Obama's probably the greatest communicator in terms of presidents that we've ever seen.
Yes, sir.
But Ronald Wilson Reagan was called the Great Communicator because he was able to speak in such a way to where he made racial issues non-racial.
Speaking in code.
Wow.
Go ahead.
He was a master code speaker.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So where Tricky Dick came with the tough on crime, Ronald Reagan echoed that, but he added something to it. He called it a war on drugs.
Right.
That's right. Yes, sir. That's right.
A war on drugs.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
But guess what?
War on black and brown.
White people do drugs too.
More than
Wow.
They do more drugs than black people.
Yes, that's right.
Straight up. But Ronald Reagan was able to make it to where they targeted black and brown communities.
Yes,
sir.
And he would send money, billions of dollars, into the police departments as long as they agreed to wage a war on drugs to where they would only do selective, I want to say selective prosecuting, but selective policing.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
They would do selective policing followed by selective prosecuting.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
And this is all actual facts, man. So to where now you have, close to 3 million people in prison, and over 70% are in prison based upon minor drug offenses.
Yes, sir.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Not murder,
Huh?
not kidnapping. You know what I mean? Not no grand larceny or nothing like that.
Right.
Minor drug offenses.
Sir.
Sir.
Over 95% of the people who are in jail never went to trial.
Boy. Look.
Are y'all listening?
Yes, sir.
Never went to trial.
Go ahead. Go ahead, brother.
That is so absurd when you think about it.
Yes,
How
sir.
many brothers and sisters are languishing in the federal penitentiaries and prisons of America, state prisons of America, who never even went to trial?
Right.
Because they made it with these sentencing laws.
Yes,
They
sir.
made it to where the sentences were so harsh
Yes, sir.
once you got convicted that anybody would take a plea rather than get that 20 years to life
Yes, sir.
for
Yes, sir.
having that ounce of crack cocaine.
Yes, sir.
Now all of that started with Ronald Reagan, and of course it continued even more so with the so-called first black president.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Come on.
Black people so silly.
We are.
We so silly. Cause this fool got on Arsenio Hall and played the saxophone. It sounded terrible, by the way.
Anyway.
And because he was able to do that, Negroes label him the first black president. But because the Republicans at that time, because you had 8 years of Ronald Reagan and then you had 4 years of George Bush, H.W. Bush, the first one, because the Republicans were smashing the Democrats based upon their tough on crime and their anti-drug stance. Bill Clinton campaigned on he was going to be tougher than any Republican,
Yes, sir.
and he was.
Yes, sir.
Because his 94 crime bills in 94 or 96? 1994 crime bill put more brothers in prison than Ronald Reagan ever did.
Yes, sir.
And it continues on to this very day.
Do your research.
Your man,
On the truth.
Brother Obama, tried to lay off a little bit. He tried.
Yes, sir.
But, you know, look, he's one brother that we done already forgot about.
Right.
He's one brother. He tried, man. You know what I'm saying? But now Donald Trump is coming in, and he brought in Jeff Sessions, who's a member of the Ku Klux Klan.
That's right.
Immediately.
That's right.
Change minimum sentencing law.
Did y'all know that?
Go ahead.
That's a sidebar too. Did y'all know Jeff Sessions was a member of the Ku Klux Klan?
Please.
And he's the Attorney General. If you all don't know about politics, let me tell you who the Attorney General is in your government. The Attorney General is the top law enforcement officer of the United States of America.
Yes,
Top
sir.
cops. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And he's a former member of the Ku Klux Klan.
He ain't form. He ain't form.
Yeah, he ain't former, but you know how I say that. I used to be.
Yes, sir.
Still is.
So the point is, sisters and brothers, is we need to get away from these people.
Yes, sir. Right.
We really need to separate.
Yes, sir.
Separation really needs to be in the forefront of our minds. Now, I'm gonna tie this up with 5 quick points, and then we out of here. Because we're asking the question as to how feasible is it for us to separate?
Yes,
What
sir.
does that look like?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because we don't think we have infrastructure. We don't think that we have the money. We don't think that we have all of the professions to do so. But we absolutely do.
Go ahead.
We have all of those things and then some.
Go ahead.
Thank you, brother.
The most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that our unity
Yes,
is
sir.
more powerful than an atomic or a hydrogen bomb.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All we have to do is have unity of thought, and then we can separate.
Yes, sir.
So the first thing, number 1, and this isn't anything that I'm making up, this is all coming from the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the honorable Minister Louis Farr.
Yes, sir.
The first thing that we have to do is to declare our own independence.
Uh-oh. Yes, sir.
That's right.
Hey, you can declare that. You don't even have to. You can say it out loud. I would. I like affirmations.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? Affirmations are good, man.
Yes,
you look in
they
the
are.
mirror every
Yes,
morning,
they
like,
are.
man, I'm a beautiful, strong black man.
That's
Yes,
right.
sir.
You know what I'm saying? That's good.
Yes,
Because if you say it out loud, hey man, them words have power.
Yes,
Remember,
sir.
in the
Amen.
beginning was the Word.
Right.
And the Word was God.
Yes,
Come on now,
sir.
say
Go
it.
ahead, go
So,
ahead.
That's right.
we got to declare our independence.
Yes.
As a man think, it's so easy.
So is it.
Right.
Say that.
Next thing, you got to start doing something for yourself
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
as an individual. We want to do it collectively, but we got to start doing something for ourselves first individually before we can come together as a collective.
Yes,
Now that
sir.
doesn't mean that you have to quit your job today. I'm not telling you to do that. But do something for yourself every day.
Yes, sir.
Do something working towards that particular goal.
That's
All right.
All right? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
That's
Yes, sir.
easy enough. That's not hard. Number 3. Respect and protect the black
Right
woman.
on. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
That
Respect and protect
Yes.
the black woman.
Yes.
Look, I'm looking at this paper and I was reading this article, and black girls still under 5.
Yes, sir.
And what the article, and you got all of these different instances, man, where these devils, these police is manhandling our women. and they're treating them with no respect whatsoever.
Right.
And they're doing, I'm talking about separation now. I'm talking about separation. But in this report, they did a study, and it hurts my heart. They did a study, and they talked about how in these schools, in these institutions, how our women and girls are viewed.
Yes, sir. See, as adults.
They're viewed when they're 5 and 6 or 7 years old as if they're adults. As if they're grown women that they have different attitudes towards sex. They're not allowing our girls to grow up. And some of it is our fault.
Yes, sir.
Because we don't protect our women and our girls like we should. Part of it is the way that we dress, the way that we talk.
Come on, come
You
on.
know, we really can't be running around these streets loud mouthing and acting sassy and ain't got no damn clothes on when we know we should have some clothes on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There's so many things, but it's about respecting and elevating our woman. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that a nation can rise no higher than its woman.
Woman, that's right. Yes, sir.
That nations aren't even measured by the man. I can look at all fancy smancy in the suit if I want to, but ain't nothing compared to these sisters in these beautiful garments.
That's right. That's right.
Nothing. And we should lay down our lives instead of pulling out our phones and videotaping it. We're on store.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
If we see a devil or a police or whoever the hell putting his hands on our woman, man, intervene.
That's right.
Straight up. I don't give a damn, man, if I get a charge. I'm not gonna let you beat on my sister.
That's right.
Come on now. Come on.
That ain't gonna happen.
Yes.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? We've been reduced. Brothers with cell phones, you video, oh man, that's messed up what's going on in the system.
Man.
I'm gonna go viral. Get the hell out of here, man.
That's right. Come on, come on.
So the respect and elevation of our woman, that is extremely important. That's number 3. Number 4, and this is crucial because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that this is the beginning of us separating.
Uh-oh.
Right.
Is we have to make the places that we live safe and decent places.
Yes.
Sir.
That's our responsibility, brothers, as men, is to make our neighborhoods safe and decent places to live. Because we don't even have to look that far, man. If you look right up here in Cherry Creek off of Alameda,
Yes, sir.
them Jews,
Yes,
be walking
sir.
on Fridays with them little hats and little
Yes, sir.
cues going down the side of their head. If you go over there late at night, somebody gonna stop you.
Yep.
And it might not be the police.
Right.
It's gonna be one of them.
Right.
What are you doing here, sir? Where are you coming to visit?
Mm-hmm.
See, it's about taking the mentality, having the responsibility to make your neighborhood a decent place to
That's
live.
right. Go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
It's about, and I know it's hard, it's about investing in our own schools, supporting our own businesses, becoming our own community.
Yes, sir.
Community, the root word of that is unity, but it's common unity.
Uh-oh.
Come on. Break it
Teach.
down.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
so
sir.
if we have community, if we're about our schools, if we're about our businesses, if we're about policing our own selves, then now once we become economically strong, community oriented,
See.
now we can become politically strong.
See?
Now if we are still in this particular system, now we can reach out and either make us a politician or buy us a politician.
My Lord.
The latest to this.
You see what I'm saying? But that has to be the mindset. And the last piece, and let me say this about that too. You can come and be a part of that right here in the Nation of Islam. We have what we call the 10,000 Fearless.
That's right.
And these are brothers and sisters who are dedicated to making our community safer and decent places to live. And the last piece, and I'm done, is with all this being said, Brother James said earlier that Allah removed the impossible when he created himself.
That's right.
God removed the impossible when he created himself. So, with that being said, we have to know that God is on our side.
That's
All
right.
right.
He's on our side. When you are in an abused relationship, God is not on the side of the abuser.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, God is not on the side of the abuser. He's on the side of the abused. Straight up, he's on the side of the abuser. So we have to know that we are going to be the winner, and we have to stop being so damn sympathetic with our enemy. Brother gave me a note that what we're suffering from is Stockholm syndrome.
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
Stockholm syndrome is a disease which means the feelings of trust or affection felt in certain cases of kidnapping or hostage taking by a victim toward a captor. And we absolutely have some Stockholm syndrome.
Yes, sir.
We absolutely have some Stockholm syndrome, but we got to get over that.
Sure do.
We got to get over that. We got to get past that. We got to get this man his name back, and we got to do something for ourselves. Know that God is on your side.
Yes, sir.
Know it. Know it. He already promised us
Yes,
the
he did.
victory. He promised us the victory. We just got to walk into it.
The door is open.
Yes, sir.
So, brothers and sisters, with that being said, let's throw off the yoke of oppression and declare our independence. But again,
Yes, sir.
remember,
Yes,
it
sir.
starts right here. It starts right here. And all this other stuff, man, we can work on because we have the money to become a free and independent people. If they do not give us the 20 to 25 years of support that they owe us. Because remember, this is not something that we begging for.
Right.
All right, say that.
This is not something that we're begging for. This is something that we owe.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
They owe us this.
Come on.
They
Listen,
paid everybody else.
listen. Hey, you absolutely right, sister. They pay everybody else. And here's the thing about our condition. For that, from 1555 to 1865, that's 310 years of chattel slavery.
Yes,
That
sir.
means that you had a nation of people that you were working from can't see morning to can't see night.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
And that means that if they working from can't see morning to can't see night with no pay, everything they do is profit.
All right.
All profit.
Yes, sir.
So for 310 years, you had a nation of people working for you for free.
Yes,
To where
sir.
now you sit at the top of the entire world.
See?
You know, there's only one first world country in the world. Did you all know that?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Go ahead.
And that's this one right here.
That's right.
Ooh.
And that is because of our sweat and our blood.
Yes, sir.
And the reality is, like I said, we're not asking them for anything. They owe us this.
Right, sir.
But if they won't give it to us, man,
Take it back.
oh man, we gonna take it.
That's
Say it.
right.
God gonna take it. But he gonna take it through us.
Yes.
Being done now.
And it's being done absolutely right now, Brother Armand. So with that, brothers and sisters, I want to thank you all for being so patient with me and listening and being so attentive. I want to leave you as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Well, thank you for that, brother.
Now I just have a few questions and then we could be dismissed. The first question is, in the Nation of Islam, I don't know if this is your first meeting, but in the Nation of Islam, we're not a church. In other words, I'm not gonna sit up here and hoop and holler for an hour
Yes,
and
sir.
tell you that you gotta believe exactly what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
I want you to research it. I want you to study it. I want you to come with questions.
Yes, sir.
So with that said, what we do also in the nation that they do not do in the church is we allow people to ask questions. So if you have any questions about anything that you heard taught here today or anything that you might have on your mind in regards to the Nation of Islam that I might be able to answer, please pose that question. If I can't answer it, I'll find somebody who can. All right, so at this time, are there any questions? If you have any questions, just raise your hand. Yes, sir, brother.
Brother, can you explain to the kids what it means to be racially profiled?
Yes, sir. Excellent question. And what it means to be racially profiled is to be pulled over simply because you're black. There's a real thing.
Florence, Colorado. And,
Yes, ma'am.
He's in Arapahoe County. Now, my question is to you, you made a statement that the Nation of Islam is the only nation who teaches that we are God. And I just wanted to let you know or inform you there is another movement besides the Nubian Nation that has elevated, that is called Melanation.
Okay.
And we are in the teachings and the knowledge of we are God to the content of moving out of the country into between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. And we have a group of our people there now. And I know we garb up in America to separate ourselves from there. Right now I'm in the homeless community apart from the nation that was separated.
Right.
But we have a new nation in place right now and we're living in our skin because that is our true clothing as God.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just wanted to inform you of that. It's called Melanation. You can look us up on Facebook and it's a new movement moving out of America for the destruction that is to come by nature itself.
Yes, ma'am. Ooh, thank you, sister, and welcome. Sister, I just got some chills when you started. Welcome, sister. And we definitely want to build with you and build with you all in that nation because unity is the key. You know, we don't have to agree upon everything, but the fact of the matter is we can agree on one thing, and that's who the enemy is.
Got a common enemy. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So everything else, man, is inconsequential to me. I don't care what we call ourselves.
Yes, sir.
But we need each other.
Yes,
You know what I'm
sir.
saying? We all we got.
Yes, sir.
We all we got.
That's
We're
right.
So-
taking on all. We don't care what you are. We're the head of humanity. Black man is head of humanity.
That's right.
right.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
we just want to bring the consciousness to the black woman of the black man. Because
Yes,
America
all right.
has distorted our mind. So we can't be the backbone of the nation now because we
Come on.
tore down from America. So that makes the black man, who's the most
Man.
advanced species on this planet, not do his position because the black woman is out of hers.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
we're awakening the black woman right now, so the black man can wake up,
Yes,
so we
ma'am.
can rebuild our nation to all.
Praise. Any other questions? All right, praise be to Allah. I hope and pray that we did answer all of your questions, even in the confines of the lecture that we prepared. But I do have a question for you. How many of us are here for your first, second, or third time? Please get a show of hands. Oh, praise be to Allah. Next question. How many of you believe that what you heard taught here today is the truth and is good for our people? If you believe it's true and good for our people, please raise your hand. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. So this last question requires a bit of action, but please don't be scared. I'm not going to ask you to join anything because you cannot join something that you're already a part of.
See,
What I would like to ask at this time is, if you believe that what you heard here taught today is true and is good for our people, then how many of you would like to stand with us, learn more, and help us to get this word over to our people? We want to declare our independence. If you would like to learn more, declare your independence, and stand with us today, please stand up.
praise. All praise due to our God. All praise due to our God. Allahu Akbar.
Now, if you could, I just have the honor of shaking our hands on behalf of the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan. Please, if you could just come up and